And today we're actually going to be talking about symptom management versus symptom resolution. So they're two very different things, but I see this being very mismanaged in the medical community, especially when it comes to women's hormones. But I'm actually going to be talking about two different areas where we are really managing symptoms versus resolving the symptoms. And that is in the area of our emotional health and in the area of our hormone health. So we're just going to dive right into that today, because I think so many people feel like they are actively trying to resolve an issue when really they're just managing the symptoms and not getting to the root issues whatsoever. And so I want to talk about that. I want to talk about some things that you can do to resolve those symptoms and what you might need to be focusing on to get the results that you're looking for. So first thing to know, so if we are talking about a female's menstrual cycle, which is typically about 28 to 32-ish days for an average healthy cycle, we know that your cycle is the fruit of three primary areas: genetics, or epigenetics, I should say, lifestyle, and dietary choices. Now, conventional medicine will tell you that that your cycle, it's like there's nothing you can do about it, right? The only way to control it is to go on birth control or hormone replacement therapy or have a hysterectomy, and that's just not the case for the majority of people. For the majority of women, their cycle really is the fruit or the manifestation of underlying health issues that are going on in our bodies. And so we really need to know, how are we going to treat that? How are we going to address that so that we're not just spinning in circles chasing problems? And so a lot of times what I hear from women when I'm talking to them on webinars, workshops, phone calls, you name it, it's this feeling of, I don't know why I'm still experiencing this symptom. I thought I was getting to the root of it. And some of this comes down to a difference in ideology or methodology, which means the method with which a practitioner is going to correct an issue or resolve an issue. And that incorrect methodology that's really instructing people without truth. So basically, there's no truth in it. So what do I mean by that? So if, for example, you go to your doctor and you say, I have really heavy periods and migraines, the very first thing that they're going to offer you, especially if you are in your 30s to early 40s, they're most likely going to offer you birth control or some other form of hormone replacement therapy. And what they're going to tell you is there's nothing that you can do to change the manifestation of your hormones as they are. And the only way that we can fix it is to address this issue, address it with birth control or hormone replacement therapy. And that is simply not true. And the research shows that over and over and over again. So for those of you that don't know my story, I had a huge hormone imbalance that I had really had since I had started my first period, like so many of you. When I chat with you, many of you, that are listening shared that, you've always had painful periods. You've always had mood swings. You've always had menstrual migraines. Maybe your mother or grandmother or aunt had those symptoms as well. And so you just thought they were normal. But really it's not normal. So I ignored all of those symptoms because, again, I thought they were all normal until I had my first daughter. And then when she was born, my hormones just never they never bounced back, that's for sure. And they just proceeded to get worse and worse and worse until I decided I had had enough and my doctor was not helping me, and I went to find a different practitioner. And ultimately, that was about 6 years before I decided to leave my hospital nursing career that was, was a very comfortable job, and pursue education and ongoing certification in the area of women's hormones. I decided that I was tired of seeing women suffer when there was an answer out there. And the answer was very clear in the research that there are primary root causes to hormone dysfunction in women. And so once we can understand what those root causes are and why they are manifesting a certain way for women, and actually address them appropriately, we move from symptom management to symptom resolution. And so it's really, really important as you're listening today, if you're watching this on YouTube, that you understand that there is a very clear and distinct difference between just managing your symptoms to get through the day or get through the cycle, and actually resolving them at the root. So once you begin to believe and recognize that you can actually resolve the symptoms, that's where hope starts to begin to bubble up, right? It begins to come to the surface. It gives you energy to fight another day. It gives you energy to begin pursuing or even following through with a protocol so that you can get that healing that you need. So we can't expect to see an instant result that most of us are accustomed to, because that's what Big Pharma has sold us, right? Which is that if you take birth control, you'll have an amazing cycle. If you take mood stabilizers, you won't have PMS. If you take ibuprofen, you're not going to have cramps. And we can't expect to apply that model to symptom resolution, because symptom resolution requires that we actually address the root causes. All of those other things that I mentioned to you, and I'm gonna mention a couple more, are really just symptom management. And so we can't expect to, let's say, have an amazing magical period in 30 days if we've had a lifetime of genetic disruption, epigenetic dysfunction, poor lifestyle choices, meaning chronic stress for most of us, poorly managed stress, health and life issues that we've allowed to just kind of fall on us, and dietary choices that are actually showing up in those areas of hormone imbalance. So we can't expect to heal our hormones in 15 days or 30 days. We can expect to see pretty massive and rapid improvement when we have the right protocol in place. But we have to get rid of that wishful thinking, right? So that first starts with, okay, I can't expect that applying this belief system, AKA I'm going to take ibuprofen to get rid of my cramps, that is symptom management, to symptom resolution, because they don't work, right? It's like, okay, that would be like me putting oil in the gas tank. Putting oil in the gas tank is for sure going to ruin my car, number one, and two, it's not going to get me anywhere. So understanding that and making sure that we have a right mind about how we should be approaching something is really, really important to getting us to those next steps. Some of the, I would say most of the current actually conventional methods are symptom management. They are not symptom resolution. And I want to talk a little bit about those. We are going to be going into this in much more detail in the workshop that's coming up on January 10th, 11th, and 12th. But I wanted to talk to you guys about some of those things, just so you can really begin to get it in your mind. Like, what does this actually mean for me? How can I change the way that I'm thinking about this so that I can start to feel better? And what approach might I need to take moving forward? So current conventional methods that really are just symptom management are, of course, pain medication. So that is naproxen is a big one, ibuprofen, Tylenol, even some homeopathic pain medications are really just, they're palliative, meaning that they are there to get you through the illness or discomfort. They are not there to heal you from that thing. Mood stabilizers, so antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, those kind of things really are not, they can be essential for a period of time. I am absolutely not judging that. I have been on them at various times throughout my life. There is absolutely valid needs and reasons for that. But when we're looking at it for like resolving PMDD, it is not a symptom resolution product. It is a symptom management product. Supplements even can be used to manage symptoms instead of addressing the root causes. So, for example, if I am working with somebody who has endometriosis, or all of the symptoms pointing to endometriosis, which is really long, heavy periods, painful cramping, whether or not they've had an ultrasound or not, and they're expecting to completely resolve their symptoms by using something like DIM or sulforaphane. It's not going to do it because there are multiple factors, including some genetic mutation factors that contribute to endometriosis, not just estrogen dominance. And so supplements even can be, if they're used inappropriately, just symptom management instead of symptom resolution. Hysterectomy in a lot of cases is a symptom management, or it is the result of not having the support that you needed to actually resolve your symptoms. And now it's at a point where the growth is out of control. The tissue has gone outside of the uterus and has now created very big issues in the body, right? And then, of course, hormone replacement therapy, which would be, hormone replacement therapy. So estrogen pills, tinctures, progesterone pills, tinctures, troches, shots, etc. Those are not resolving the root issues. And again, they are just helping to manage the symptoms. So I am going to be going into more detail on what all of that means for you. But again, we have to get our mind right about how we want to approach this for the long term of our health, because especially as we get into our late 30s, early 40s, it begins to become more and more important because there are a lot of other factors. Our hormones play so much more of a role in our overall health as we move through menopause beyond just having a period. So I hear a lot of women say, I can't wait to not have my period anymore. It's going to be amazing. I don't even care if I have hot flashes, but really there's a lot more at stake for not addressing our symptoms now. And the loss of a period doesn't equal improved health through menopause. So that is a whole other topic on its own. But the other area that I wanted to kind of talk about symptom management versus symptom resolution is actually the area of our emotional health. And this is an area where I feel like so many of us have actually taken a really big hit the last 3 years. I don't know about you, but I'm curious for those of you watching, I'm just looking down here to check the comments. How many of you have had, it's been a challenging couple of years, right? It's been a challenging, maybe your kids have been struggling, trying to parent kids through COVID and have COVID schooling. Maybe there have been job losses or job changes. This is all, on top of the life, whatever life we had before COVID. And so many of us have been just managing our emotional symptoms, dealing with our anxieties, managing around them, etc., and not actually getting to the root of some emotional health issues. And I think that's actually one of the biggest blessings that has come out of this pandemic and everything that's been happening globally over the last few years is it's really pushed these issues to the surface so that we can actually deal with them. Excuse me. And so one of the ways that we can tell if we are simply managing our emotions or really just trying to control our way around issues is that we notice that there's a continual pattern or a continual theme that's coming up in our life. It may be that little things tip you over really easily, and all of a sudden you find yourself in the dumps of disappointment or feeling victimized by your circumstances, and it really doesn't take you long to get there. That would be, and you can muster yourself out of it, but as soon as something else happens that challenges that, it's like, you're down in the dumps again. That would be one symptom. Another symptom of really just symptom management in the area of our emotional health is dealing with anxiety in multiple different areas. So maybe you've overcome it in the area of finances, but now you're experiencing it in the area of your child's health or a family member. That really is the root has not been taken care of, which is what is the root of the anxiety? What is the belief system around that anxiety that's allowing it to pop up as other shoots in other areas of your life? And so in all of my programs, whether it's one-on-one coaching, the Keys to Emotional Freedom coaching program, the Hormone Wellness Academy, or our Happy Hormones program, we are looking at all of those different elements, because if our emotional health is not in a good place, and it is not being taken care of well, and we are simply managing around our emotions instead of really looking at them and dealing with them and bringing them into an area of health, that will absolutely impact our hormones. So the other thought that I want to kind of leave you with today, because I know we really kind of honed in on delineating or identifying symptom management versus symptom resolution. When it comes to your cycle, you have to think of it as everything that you are experiencing in this cycle is the fruit of choices, whether they felt like something you could choose or not, over the last 30 to 60 days. So sometimes what we will see, for example, this has been a really brutal flu season, meaning a very, very brutal winter where we're having a lot of viruses going around at once. And we see, a woman who has gotten the flu and then all of her kids got sick. So of course her stress is really high. And maybe her period right before that was really good. But then her period after that was not so good. And that is a really good picture or example of what is very common to see in our hormones, that cycle was the fruit of everything that was going on in her life, whether or not she was able to take care of herself, whether or not she was able to get the nutrients in that she needed to really support her menstrual cycle. And so if you're beginning to track your cycle, if you are beginning to just kind of be aware of what's going on in your body, then this can really help. Just understanding this can be really, really helpful in identifying what some of the root causes are. And so you can begin to see oh, there's a very clear pattern here. And meaning if I'm under a lot of stress, I know that my mood is probably going to get hit the most during my cycle for me in particular. So what does that mean? What that means is that I know that when I'm under periods of extreme stress, there are certain things that I need to do to be very intentional about supporting my mood, by supporting the gut-brain connection, by making sure that I'm getting really good rest, that I am taking care of my emotional health. And maybe that means going to a counselor or getting prayer or something along those lines, so that aspect of my cycle is not impacted. So there are very clear strategies that we can use, and I would love to talk to you more about this. We have a workshop coming up, like I said earlier, on January 10th, 11th, and 12th. And you can register for that by going to tinyurl.com/get control of your periods and register there. And I hope that you sign up. It is a free workshop. It's going to be amazing. I cannot wait to have you there. And thank you so much for listening today.